A pound of whale meat can fetch up to $1,700 US. It's no exaggeration to say that hunting a whale is like hunting for a bloody treasure. But it requires a great deal of patience, as the journey can last for several months. The crew takes turns scanning for whales from sunrise to sunset every day. Whale hunters use binoculars to search for whales, blowholes, or plumes of air created by the whale's breathing. Upon spotting a whale, the hunting boat will be launched and the chase will begin. The crew will race to the whale, following the captain's instructions. However, the men needed to row quickly and quietly as possible, so as to not scare the whales and cause them to dive or swim further away. When the hunting boat gets close to the whale, the fishermen step forward and use a harpoon to pierce through the whale's blubber and secure the whale close to the boat. The crew's goal is to tire out the whale. When the whale is exhausted, the crew will pull on the rope to draw the whale closer to them. The harpooner will bring a spear forward and thrust it into the whale's heart or lungs. Once ashore, they are killed with traditional knives with blades typically 16 to 19 centimeters long, or around 6.3 to 7.5 inches. The pilot whale hunt in the Faroe Islands, or Grindarap in the local language, is a tradition that begins when a local spots a pod of pilot whales near the islands. Local men will then board their ships to intercept the animals. By creating loud noises, they frighten the whales, and the hunters gradually herd them into a small bay or estuary, where they either beach themselves or become trapped in shallow water. Whales that do not beach themselves or do not swim into waters shallow enough for the hunters to stand in are pulled ashore, usually by ropes attached to steel hooks embedded in their flanks, heads, or necks. Nearly 900 whales were commercially hunted worldwide in 2022. Dolphins are also hunted using this method. Combined with the number of dolphins caught by accident, statistics show that over 80,000 dolphins are commercially hunted each year. Despite being controversial, many places in the world, such as Norway and Japan, still organise hunts for endangered species like whales and dolphins. The hunted creatures are lined up on the dock and slaughtered by hunters and families in the district. Each hunter and each family is entitled to an equal share of the meat and blubber. Although the hunts are officially non-commercial, some portions are sometimes sold to local restaurants and hotels. Approximately 100 million sharks are caught globally each year. Longlining is the most common method of catching sharks along the Atlantic coast and the Gulf of Mexico. Fishermen sail to the feeding grounds of sharks and prepare their fishing tools. Longlines typically have 600 to 800 hooks attached to a main line, with a baited hook every 10 meters, stretching for several kilometers. The bait is usually mackerel or other types of fish with a strong bloody scent, in order to attract these bloodthirsty creatures. The line is then soaked, often overnight, when sharks are most active in feeding. In the area between the Java and Sumatra Islands, tribal fishermen risk their lives to hunt sharks. But in other areas, machines and spears are used to haul the sharks up safely. The main line is attached to a hydraulic machine. This machine is used to pull up the main line back along with the hooked sharks. Another common method used by fishermen is the use of drift gill nets to create a wall of netting in the water column to catch fish. These nets can be 4,800 to 6,000 feet long. They are set in the evening and soaked until 1 or 3 a.m. Smaller fish can be hauled aboard in the net and removed on deck. When larger fish are caught, the net is hauled in slowly so that the fish can be secured to the vessel with a separate rope and then hauled aboard. The types of sharks caught include hammerhead and grey sharks, but sometimes great white sharks are caught too, the most ferocious sharks in the ocean. The caught sharks range in size from around 110 to 176 pounds, but some can weigh up to 1,100 pounds. Many fishermen prefer to cut off shark fins rather than take the whole animal, because they can be worth up to $500 per pound or $1,100 per kilogram. So they often keep the fins and discard the rest of the shark back into the ocean in order to save space. Once back to shore, these fins are dried and processed to create a gelatinous soup, a delicacy considered a status symbol in many Asian countries. This shark finning practice is very controversial because these fin sharks face a painful death as they bleed profusely and cannot swim normally when thrown back into the ocean. Marlin in Kona, Hawaii can be caught year-round, but the peak season is from June until September. Some marlin have been caught weighing over 1,000 pounds, and they have been caught here, contributing to the reputation of the annual Hawaii International Marlin Tournament held each August. Rod and reel fishing is the most popular and effective method in Kona. This method involves trolling a lure behind a moving boat, typically at 7 to 10 knots. This simulates the movement of prey and attracts marlin. There are two types of lures used: live bait and artificial lures. Because they can mimic a whole school of bait fish, artificial lures often help anglers to catch the fish faster. Marlin are known for their incredible speed and can generate over 800 pounds of drag on a fishing line. However, they will tire over time, so their pulling power gradually decreases as they struggle with the angler. Anglers use drag settings on their reels to create friction and gradually slow the fish over around 30 minutes. Kona is the only place in the US with commercial marlin fishing. Another country that sells marlin commercially is Japan, where longline fishing has become the most common method used. This technique involves deploying a main line several kilometers long, with many branch lines called snoods, each ending with a baited hook. The fish are brought aboard the vessel, sometimes using specialized lifting equipment. Once secured, the marlin is either processed on board or transported ashore for further processing. Tuna is the fourth largest commercially caught fish that I want to mention in this list. There are many different types of tuna caught, but the largest is the bluefin tuna. Each one can weigh an average of 496 to 551 pounds and can be up to 6.6 or 8.2 feet in length. Japanese fishermen often use longline fishing in order to catch tuna. They use a main fishing line that stretches for 30 miles, with over 2,000 baited hooks hanging from it. Squid and mackerel are the two most commonly used baits. This method allows fishermen to catch 661.3 million tons of skipjack tuna and 21 million pounds of bluefin tuna in 2022. On fishing boats, tuna are typically bled, gutted, and then stored in refrigerated seawater tanks or frozen. A high-quality bluefin tuna can be worth thousands of dollars, so fishermen handle the fish with great care. In 2019, a 608-pound bluefin tuna was sold for around $3.1 million. We've talked about the big boys, But what is the smallest tuna in the ocean? Skipjack tuna is the smallest species of tuna, but accounts for 70% of the total tuna catch in the Pacific Ocean. They often travel in large schools near the surface, so fishermen often use purse seines in order to catch them. Once a fishing location has been selected, fishermen lower a large net over a mile long into the water, creating a vertical wall that surrounds the schools of skipjack tuna. Then they use the net to grab the fish in the smaller area. A smaller net called a brown net is used to scoop up the fish inside the larger net. This net can open at the bottom and release the caught fish into boxes on the ship, each of which can hold up to 27,000 pounds of fish. Philippine fishermen have harvested 484 million pounds of tuna annually using this fishing method. This 32-legged octopus was found by South Korean fishermen while fishing in Gyeongsang County in South Korea. And what's more special, South Korea is the country with the highest crab consumption per capita, with about 25 kilos per person annually. This is probably because their soy-marinated crabs are so irresistible. So what is their secret to catching octopus and blue crabs? Today, let's explore their journey from the ocean to your table. The pursuit of octopus in South Korea primarily centers on the western and southern seas, especially in fishing hubs like Gwansan and Yusu. Additionally, the picturesque Jeju Island also contributes significantly to the country's octopus harvest. The fishing season typically lasts from March or May to November. Net traps are the primary tools employed by South Korean octopus fishermen. These traps can be any shape, but typically are cylindrical and have 3 entry points on their sides. The mesh size of these traps is 22 millimeters or smaller to ensure that only mature octopuses are caught. Once the traps are carefully prepared and baited, they are submerged to the depths of the ocean, where they remain for a period of 7 to 14 days. With anticipation high, fishermen haul in their traps, eager to discover the bounty that awaits. Currently, the legal trap limit in South Korea is 2,500 traps per vessel. The average daily catch typically ranges between 0.5 and 1 ton of octopus. Only octopus weighing over 1 kilogram can be legally harvested. A different method of catching octopus is the more traditional pot trapping. In each fishing trip, around 500 pots are tied to a rope and lowered into the sea. The pots are not baited to attract the octopus, but instead they are left to rest on the seabed until the end of the fishing season. Since octopus prefer to hunt in dark places, they think these pots are rock crevices. So once they crawl into these pots to find food, they usually don't want to get out. When the fishermen pull these pots back to the surface and throw a bit of salt inside, the octopuses crawl out. Fishermen often mark on their GPS where they have placed each pot in order to make it easier to return and retrieve them. On average, this traditional pot trapping method yields an impressive 200 kilograms of octopus each day. In the morning, after the tide recedes, fishermen set off to the beach in search of any signs of octopus burrows, like small holes or disturbances in the sand. When they find one of these clues, they stick their shovels into the sand and begin digging as quickly as possible. The octopus, startled by the intrusion, attempts to escape by burrowing to another place. So fishermen will use their knowledge to guess the octopus's direction. Most fishermen will catch the octopus within a minute, and they will not stop as the tide comes back in. South Korean fishermen mainly use this method in order to catch baby octopus. On average, a fisherman can catch 4 kilograms of baby octopus a morning. Then they are sold to local food stands to make panjeon, a type of Asian seafood pancake or dried octopus. Jigging is the last method of catching octopus and squid commercially that I want to mention in this video. At the beginning of the rainy season, the octopus often swim to about 500 meters or 1 nautical mile from shore in order to find food. So fishing for octopus and squid is much easier and more convenient during this time. Each octopus jig consists of a cluster of several hooks spreading out in a circle. Each hook is attached to a live or fake bait made out of plastic and painted with many bright fluorescent colors in order to attract the octopus's vision. Each fisherman usually carries 10 clusters of hooks and throws them all into the water. Every day, fishermen have to wake up at 3 a.m. to go octopus jigging until morning. The daily catch from octopus jigging typically yields a bounty of 50 to 80 kilograms. After catching, the fishermen distribute the fresh octopus to different local seafood markets or sell it directly to traders. According to the South Korean Fisheries Association, the nation's annual octopus harvest is around 100,000 tons. A group of workers will receive and sort the octopus. Any bad octopus are then discarded. The workers use knives to remove the internal organs. This is a job that cannot be done by machines. They can process around 15,000 octopuses per day. The octopus are then put into a machine to clean out the ink. Then it is washed for a second time, this time by hand, with a brush to remove dirt, especially on the tentacles. They are then sorted by size and arranged in trays. After being flash frozen, the octopus is packaged for shipping. An impressive 70% of the total catch is consumed in South Korea. The remaining 30% finds its way to international markets like Japan, China, and the US. Have you ever eaten octopus from South Korea? Please let me know in the comments below. And now, let's check out the Asian blue crab. Kokotje crab, or aka the Asian blue crab, is the most caught and consumed crab species in the world, and it is one of the main crabs here in South Korea. The spring season brings forth the prime of female Asian blue crabs. Their bodies are brimming with delectable roe, and it is considered a delicacy here. As the autumn season arrives, the focus shifts to male Asian blue crabs, which reach their peak maturity during this time. The coastal regions of Western South Korea, particularly in the Yellow Sea, are the main hub for fishing Asian blue crabs. They use a crab netting method to harvest crabs here. Crab nets have large eyes of 3 to 4 adult fingers, with a width of around 2.5 meters and a length of about 50 meters per net sheet. Excluding days when the sea is rough and the wind is strong, fishermen usually take their boats out to cast the nets 2 hours before and after the tide goes out. It is typically around 2 to 5 p.m, as this is when the crabs go out to feed. After around 3 hours, the group of fishermen have finished setting the nets and are having lunch. Then, they pull them up and return to the dock. With about 50 nets, fishermen can catch 50 to 60 kilos of crabs per boat. The crabs are put into plastic drums filled with water and oxygen so they don't die until they are processed. Small crabs are released back into the sea. South Korea is a major exporter of Asian green crabs, with an export turnover of around $500 million each year. Asian blue crabs are typically prepared in two main ways: marinated in soy sauce or with a spicy sauce. Both are equally delicious. After being transported to the factory, the crabs will be sorted and cleaned. They will use a pair of scissors to cut the crab's body in half. This will then help the crab to be able to absorb the spices better when marinating. The crabs are then put in plastic boxes with the sauces to ferment. South Koreans love to eat this crab dish with hot rice.